The last session, Nicholas and Elined met and discussed a tome which Robert had been keeping in safe with his belongings, his ghouls, and it was borrowed by Nicholas in exchange for aiding Robert's castaway herd and ghouls, which had been left to drift. Although clearly a strange book, Elined was unable to glean anything that Nicholas described. They settled on needing to find an occultist for more answers. They conspired together on literature to spread propaganda, intent on swaying public opinion against Duke Richard's exile. And after agreeing to a small boon to the London influencer Bella Matea, they were able to establish a vessel to reach this message even to the nobility of England. A bit earlier than this, far north, Robert saved the lives of nuns whom he had previously sold into slavery as blood dolls to the gangrel Sigurd, and then made a perilous climb to the great sea stack and summoned forth the Einherjar, setting him on a path toward Ragna, the alleged slayer of Canute, her sire. The Einherjar promptly drained and killed Albert Desjardins and set off east. In his desperation to save Albert, Robert took him back to Sigurd's cave and embraced him. And it is there that we open the scene, in the dark and the dim of Sigurd's cave opening at the coast. We see Robert over his companion, Albert, as Albert's eyes dart open and his torso rises up. What? What happened? Is this hell? Am I in the pit of the devil? He looks to you.
You are not dead. You are still, well, in a different state of existence.
Robert, where am I? I'm so hungry, I feel strange.
You're back in the cave. And I understand you are hungry.
He starts to rise up, looking startled and uncertain. Everything seems different. He holds up at his neck, where the wound has actually sealed together. I thought I died.
And you very well would have. But you've gained a treasure. If you decide to keep it. You'll learn about what I am now. Robert will, I guess, out of character, I'm not entirely sure about making a child. Exposure to blood would cause frenzy instantly? Is that what would happen?
You know, your character would know from the embrace that childe, when they are embraced, have almost no vitae in them, and they are on the verge of starvation. It would be trivially easy to set him onto frenzy right now, and hunger will be at the forefront of his mind until he has eaten. And after that, his body will die. Truly.
The most important thing would be to hunt quickly. Alright. I will tell you all I know, but first, you thirst, you hunger. More than you've ever have before. That must be satiated.
He's looking down at his palm and kind of feeling at his skin. My hands are growing cold. I do not feel the warmth there anymore. Have we any rations? He looks up to you suddenly.
None that will satisfy you.
Curses. To the village, then. We must away, quickly.
I will climb quickly, but first, the village is not a place to return to. We must search the night for sustenance.
Robert, I am not such a hunter as you. I cannot find game in the night.
Then follow me. I will teach you.
He nods after a pause and follows after you.
Robert will begin climbing. Yeah.
Alright. Given your experience climbing up and down this mountain, I won't require a roll this time. Also, it helps you don't have to worry about nuns. So you make your way up and find that Albert's much quicker and more agile than he was before, much more certain on his hands and feet. He keeps up with you quite well. It's strange, whatever happened, I feel as though I could leap to the stars.
You've acclimated well. Robert begins scanning the horizon. He'll begin hunting for something to feed on.
Yeah, give me a wit survival, difficulty 7. One success. You don't find much. You do happen across a couple hares. It would be a small meal just for you. Certainly not enough for both of you.
I'll grab that hare and bring out his fangs and just prick a bit from the hair and toss it over in a quick fashion. Over to his child, and we'll see where that leads from there.
Albert seems not to question your use of fangs or how you simply throw it to him. He takes it, and there's only a few moments of hesitation before the beast takes over. His eyes wide, and almost mechanically he lurches forward as his mouth rips into the hair.
And Robert's next step will be to give him distance.
You can tell that the beast is in control now. It drains everything there is of this small hair, and it falls from his hands, limp, and his head turns about, not like a man, but like a monster. He ignores you entirely, and he seems to see something else and runs after in some direction.
I'll keep a close eye and make sure he doesn't get into trouble.
You notice that he moves at least as fast as you do.
Impressive for being so young.
It is a strange sight, but he blurs away. You intend to try and keep up with him?
Yeah, I'll attempt to keep up with him.
Okay. Just give me a dexterity athletics, standard difficulty. Okay. Yeah, you can still definitely keep track of him. He seems to spot other small game and wildlife. You track him for some time. He doesn't find much. A couple more hares, an otter. But once you see that he's kind of slowed down after a couple of these meals, maybe he's regained a bit of himself, and he looks about a little bit more calmly, although his lips still trace with blood. He paces over to you in a more controlled manner. I know not what I do, but I hunger still.
These small game, they will not satisfy you.
There are no larger game on these islands, Robert. We've not seen any. There are no elk or even bear or wolf. I feel as though I could eat a horse.
This was just the appetizer. But what gives us the most nourishment? You must always control yourself when partaking, lest you put them in danger of taking their lives.
You don't speak of people.
I do.
That's what you were doing. That night I was with you. I could not see, but I feared the worst. Am I that now?
You are that now.
I have long dreaded you would say so, that you were one of the devil's men, and now I too belong to the devil. Do I not?
I held no allegiance to the devil, and neither do you. We are simply placed under perhaps a curse by God, if you believe the sacred text.
He looks down, forlorn and dejected, but his face eventually turns to anguish and grimace as he grips at his stomach and falls to his knees. Oh, what's happening? God has smote me, for sure. He writhes on the ground.
Is onset by sudden pain emotional?
You know that childe soon embraced have to expose of whatever unnecessary waste the human body would have as the organs die. And he becomes one of the undead. The process is not pleasant. He is in pain, moaning loudly to the night and to the shore and the coast and to you for almost an hour as he expels his waste and all that was within him.
Robert at least, like, make sure he doesn't get it all over his clothes.
You can do that for him.
He'll do that and then assure him it will pass shortly.
And as certain to your words, eventually it does pass. And there is nothing but this undead corpse. He redresses himself and seems to rise slowly, staggered a bit. What a cursed state. Will this occur every time?
Only once. The worst pain you will feel is over now. Let's save you. Step into the sunlight.
The sun. What does it do? He would not come out.
We now cannot exist in the presence of the sun. Such a thing would strip our flesh and leave us nothing but ash.
His pale face grows even more white. Why would you do such a thing to me?
To give you a chance. You can learn to continue existence like this.
What kind of existence is this? Cursed by God, hiding from the sun, to prey upon people? His fangs are extended and he's drawing near to you. He looks frantic, on the verge of hysteria. To suffer this pain and cold death?
Soothe yourself. It is not all bad. First, you continue to exist. What you do with this existence could be good or bad. When we take blood, it does not need to kill.
His hands are up, balled into fists. It seems like he's fighting multiple things. You can actually see the palms of his hands grow crimson as he seems to be closing his fist so much it draws blood. And he starts away from you, as though pulling himself away from you.
Robert will try his best to comfort him. As this reminds him of his own questioning of existence.
Make a charisma empathy roll, difficulty 8. I'll give actually difficulty 7. He is fully bloodbound to you. You saw to that before embracing him. Your words have more power over him than most. One success. You help him walk him back from the edge a bit. You can tell he's very close to losing control again. But your words and confidence help him, stabilize him, at least for now, but maybe not for long. The shock is a great deal, and that the hunger is not helping. I feel there is something within me which never ceases, which never stops. It always stirs. He kind of grasps at his breast. I can feel it.
That is your body's urge to continue surviving. It comes out strongest when it is in danger. We call it the beast.
I can feel it gnawing at my stomach. I hunger still.
Then we should seek more. Calm it for the time being.
The wildlife grows scarce here, Robert. These creatures are not enough. I'll need 1,000. Kind of looks and scans the horizon.
From their travels, what villages are near that does not contain the nuns?
There aren't many that you know about. The nearest one is that same village. Otherwise, it's many miles to the next civilization you know of.
How much vitae does Robert suppose he's taken enough to at least control himself?
You think approximately a few points worth of vitae after a couple hours of hunting. And at this point, the night is starting to get late.
Alright. Points. Robert will... Alright. How unwise would it be for Robert to give him like 2 points of his own vitae?
That's an interesting question. What do you mean by how unwise?
Yeah, like, as Robert, like, I'm thinking it's probably something dangerous. What would Robert know?
Anytime you have a vampire on the verge of frenzy, it's always a danger to tempt them with more. You've heard the stories of elders being diablerized by their childe. Will he do the same? Who knows?
Who knows? Alright, well, he'll do it. He'll just be on high alert for any signs of frenzy. And if that does happen, he'll react appropriately.
Alright. So you see Albert still kind of scanning the horizon hopelessly.
I'll give you but a sample.
He looks to you. What?
My vitae, a sample.
He looks
And Robert
hungrily to
will
you.
offer his wrist. Do not drink deeply at all. You must control yourself.
He walks forward, uncertain but not unwilling. You can see the need, the urge in his eyes. No idea is too outlandish to him right now. You can tell that. And he approaches you, lifting up your wrist and pausing again. His fangs extend and his head comes down. You feel the kiss. You have felt this experience before with Dorothy. You know that the kiss is an enrapturing feeling, almost paralyzing in its pleasure. I will need a self-control roll from you, difficulty 8, to overcome this.
Spending a willpower on this one.
Alright, 3 successes. It is an intoxicating experience, but you have enough practice, perhaps, to keep your wits about you. And good that you do, because in just a few seconds, he draws forth as many vitae. You lose 3 vitae in those seconds. He is ravenously hungry and taking what he can as fast as he can.
Robert will withdraw after losing 3 points of vitae.
Alright, roll your strength brawl, because he's not letting go.
If he is not letting go, leaving it to strength brawl is not ideal. Robert will attempt to scare him away if he is truly lost.
Let's see if he is truly lost. The taste of vitae is far more intoxicating than rabbits. Yeah, he is definitely holding on. You don't think a person is at your wrist right now.
Alright. He'll scare him. He'll use a dread gaze, roaring out for him to stop, and we'll see what happens from there.
That was just a strength brawl to hold on.
Okay.
You
I'm able to
roll
use
your-
dread gaze though, right?
Yeah, you can roll your dread gaze.
Okay. What difficulty?
Let's see. Dread gaze. Wits courage. That is going to be difficulty 5.
Okay.
3 successes. That will give you... They run away, clawing away at anything to escape. He suddenly lets go abruptly and starts to flee, actually going on all fours to flee off the opposite direction, kind of hissing as he goes. He moves at credible speed, darting away into the darkness.
trying to figure out how long this lasts, but Robert's not going to seek him out any further. He's going to head back to the camp. Let him regain control of himself.
On foot, you... Remind me, did you stay... When you arrived at the coast, didn't you immediately attempt the climb to start the ritual? Or did you stay a night in the cave? I can't remember.
Oh, good question. I think the second time around, they just climbed up instantly.
Because the trek on foot from that camp to here would take most of the night. Which means most of the night is spent, if that's the case.
Okay.
Especially if you spent several hours hunting. So I would say that you are starting to see the glowing light in the sky. The blue is returning. You don't think you have enough time to make it back to camp this night.
Back to the cave then? That's the closest one.
Back to the cave you go.
As soon as he gets into the cave, he'll use summon.
You gonna try and summon Albert back?
Yeah, he doesn't want to leave anything to chance.
Alright, you'll spend a blood point. Roll your charisma subterfuge. Your difficulty will be 5. You know him pretty well. He's really bloodbound. Actually, you know what? Make a difficulty 4, because that makes it even easier. You've used presence on successfully too, so yeah, difficulty 4. A lot is in your favor to pull him back.
Robert will wait.
Was that your roll? 3 successes?
Mm-hmm. Or 4 successes.
Yeah, I see that. Okay. Yeah. You expect he will return with some haste at some point. And actually, I'll say that it's not that long. You wait less than an hour before you hear the quick and desperate sounds of stone above the cave entrance. Some pebbles fall down, and very gracefully, actually, Albert comes back down, landing on his feet with unnatural poise. You can see his face is bloodier again.
I'm feeling better, are we?
I do not know. I felt pulled back here. He looks back out to the cave entrance, to the horizon and the water. I suspect this is where we must stay now.
Yes, for this day.
He looks very uncertain as he passes by you and slumps down in a corner of the cave. His eyes are still wide, lost in thought. What's going through Robert's mind in these last moments and minutes before dawn?
He's feeling overwhelmed, but he's also thinking, if Albert makes it, At least Robert actually has a legacy now, and he'll do what he can to take care of it.
All right. And the scene will fade on Robert turning back, walking further into the cave, away from the danger of the sun, with his new child, Albert. We will transition as that scene closes. Returning to London. Sometime later, Elined and Nicholas, the two of you are still both in London. And Elined, I believe your plans hinged on meeting with Nicholas. But what has Nicholas been up to since his last meeting with Elined and their conspiracy to spread propaganda?
He's been preparing to leave London. Making sure the book is wrapped and ready. Considering Bella's words.
All right. Then, Elined, I will say that when you seek Nicholas out, you find him setting about making preparations to leave London in his guest room in your manor house.
I recalled that you mentioned you wish to leave. Did you have a set destination?
I will search as far as I must to find someone who knows something about this book.
That will be a bit difficult with the current traveling restrictions. However, even with that in mind, you were one of the ones that helped uncover the corruption. If anything, the princes might be more willing to give you your pass for that.
I thought you were planning to leave as well.
I was, but I am also on a time schedule.
And what does that schedule look like?
Currently, I won't see the results of what I have attempted until about a month.
A month.
I will have to return here by month's end, is what I am inferring.
Then I will travel with you wherever you go, and you can leave me there when you return.
Very well.
It's a shame I have to leave London so quickly, but it's become dangerous for me to stay.
Sorry, what was that? My internet hiccuped.
He said, it's a shame I have to leave London so quickly, but it's become dangerous for me to stay.
I suppose it has. Did you have any idea of where you wish to search?
That is difficult. Somewhere where scholars congregate, I assume.
Well, there was the college that Cormac and I researched a bit for a while that had what I can only assume was a spy of some kind.
It is a possible place to start.
Very well. As Elined's thinking about it, is there anywhere outside of Cambridge that's jumping to her mind over the possibilities for finding someone? Oxford, yes. That one.
Finding an occult academic?
He said he wanted to go someplace where academics, congregate.
Yeah, Oxford, Cambridge, that would be the mainstay of mundane academics. But I think you would also know that Canterbury is a place of great religious significance. There is a great deal of wealth in the clergy there, and...
But taking that book there doesn't seem like a very good idea. Alright. Travel-wise, how far to each one? There's... Just trying to see which one she's be able to get to and get back in time for.
Look at my maps. It's not terribly far to Oxford. It's about 60 miles. Even shorter to Cambridge. 50 miles. So probably if you went by carriage, it would be a few nights to really either of them, and then a few nights back.
Oxford or Cambridge, or would you like to search both?
I will try one and then the other if I must.
They are both decently close to one another.
This is quite frustrating, you might understand. It is possible I could have found the answers I sought here. What I have little use for a volatile harpy, and she has little use for me.
You hear a knock at the door.
Up, she will go up and see who it is.
You see that it's Gertrude just outside the guest room.
The basement door.
Thank you, basement door. Apologies, my lady. A letter arrived for you. She hands you it.
She will read the letter.
You see the seal of Ambrose and break it as you open it. It seems to request your presence at the court at once.
She'll turn back to Nicholas, give a polite smile. My apologies. It seems that I have been summoned by the powers that be.
He raises a brow. Then I will occupy myself with a hunt.
Very well. I will return when I am able. And with that, she will turn and place the letter in her office before leaving.
Okay. And Nicholas, you wish to hunt?
Yes.
Alright, how would you like to go about doing that?
He's quite on edge right now, and he wishes to take his anger out on someone. Perhaps he'll find a criminal. It can't be too hard at night in London, especially if he's not seen.
Intent on just grabbing them in the night and pulling them away?
Or subduing them into Canatania, whichever takes his fancy.
Yeah, give me a wits alertness roll, difficulty 6. One success. Yeah, you find you think maybe a would-be thief skulking about. You see him eyeing somebody else. It looks like a shopkeep closing up late at night, and you can see he's stalking him as you stalk the thief. But you're faster than the thief is.
He's surprised that he finds himself feeling cruel tonight. He's going to whisper in the man's ear from the shadows, "He's seen you," and use passions to inflame his fear.
All right. Go ahead and roll that out.
Alright, and that's charisma plus empathy, right?
You're doing Incubus Passion?
Right.
Yes. We'll go with that. That's fine.
Difficulty of his humanity.
Difficulty 6.
Okay. Ooh, he's very human for a thief.
Maybe he's just desperate. Any specialties here?
None whatsoever.
He focuses on the man, the merchant, or this clerk, walking away, and he kind of turns in the direction. What? Who's there?
Nicholas will not reveal himself. He'll wait for another chance.
Show your face, I'll stab you in the gullet, I will.
Well, that certainly inspires his curiosity. He will melt out of the shadows in front of the man. When are you at that?
Oh, he takes a step back.
Nicholas pulls back the flaps of his coat, revealing his bebloused chest. Well then, be about it.
What, are you mad?
Here, I'll make it even easier. And he'll unbutton his shirt and open it, revealing his bare, pale skin.
Ah, you nobles think you can do anything? Well, have this. And he draws forth a dagger and slams it into your chest. Or tries to. We'll see.
And Nicholas intends to let him.
Alright, if you're intentionally not moving, I'm going to lower his difficulty.
No, he's not moving.
He's going to connect. One lethal. Roll your soak.
Alright.
Two success. No lethal. He stabs and pulls back and sees that where you've opened, the wound has already knit itself together. What the hell? Who are you?
He'll look him in the eyes, still, and dominate him.
Alright. You want him to stand still?
Yes.
Alright. For dominate, I'm not going to need a roll on a simple mortal. He's standing perfectly still now.
Nicholas doesn't know what he was going to do to this merchant, and frankly, he doesn't care. But he feels better about this. Someone who's always skirting the possibility of death certainly won't mind finding it early, and he will drain him dry.
It's easy to do in this dark alley where no one is really wandering through at this time. You can take your fill.
And fill up he does.
You drain him completely dry?
Completely dry. Well, not beyond the point of satiation, so he takes like 5.
Okay.
Enough to kill him, but not enough to give the beast everything.
Sure. What do you do with his very pale body?
He'll make sure the wound is closed, of course. Button up his own clothing. And he'll drag him further into the alleyway from where he was watching.
Okay.
Given the state of forensic science as it is right now, Very few doctors will know what happened, so he will take the man's own dagger and ram it into his belly.
There's still enough blood that it makes a bit of a squirt. Some pool of blood starts to form.
For some, my friend, there are no next times. But you have inspired me. Let that give you comfort in death.
What next will Nicholas do?
He's going to wander the streets for a while, sort of reveling in his blush of health from draining this man. He needs to get his mind off of things, which for him is harder than anyone. Because he tends to become obsessed.
Alright. You step out into the street, back into the crowds, no one else the wiser. Of course, even at this hour, there are always some group of people on the main roads. You pass by, you think maybe even the very same merchant whose life you saved tonight. He tips his hat to you as he kind of makes his way by.
Be careful tonight, good sir. Seedy elements abound.
Gives you a strange and uncertain look as he walks past you, giving you a double take and continuing walking on.
Nicholas will nod politely, moving completely the opposite direction.
And so you continue on.
He doesn't have any set plans for tonight. Elined is predisposed, and he's had enough of looking at the book for now, until he can find somebody who can help him.
Okay. And for now, you will wander the night. I'm afraid the scene there. Sorry, you're going to say something?
No, I was just going to say he likes the idea of flaunting Bella's threat by wandering the night openly here.
Flaunt you do. You wonder briefly who or what may have had that domain for hunting grounds, but it's only a fleeting thought. Elsewhere, we follow Elined. As she enters St. Mary's Undercroft, the Court of London. There are only a few here in court tonight. Neonates mostly, some speaking with the Chamberlain, Mordecai. They disperse when you approach and Mordecai kind of sends them off. Ah, Elined. It's good you came soon. I have some regrettable news.
And what would that be?
We received something recently. A wrapped box. A letter from Chester. And he moves, taking a box from an attendant and handing you this very simple but well put together box that's kind of wrapped up in twine. and a letter on top.
She will inspect the letter first.
It comes from Chester. It reads, "To my esteemed lord and ladies, one of my viceroys recently happened upon a known slayer of upstanding Covenant Canaanites, a thief and anarchist. You will be glad to know justice was summarily exacted at dawn, and among their belongings was something which I believe was given to them by mistake. I return it to you in the due courtesy of one adversary to another. Respectfully, Prince Barbaros of Chester."
Even without opening it yet, that does not bode well. She will open the box.
Inside the box is a skull, a fine golden ring bearing the gauntlet emblem. Anarchist indeed. It seems history caught up with her.
Seems so. So the gauntlet is back down to 2.
So it seems. Have you any news of Robert? We have not heard or seen from him in months.
The only thing I have heard is that he traveled north. Exactly what he is doing, I haven't the slightest. He did not inform me to his business.
We endure a civil war from within, a conflict from Norwich, and he goes north and tells no one for what purpose. And it paces off in an angry direction.
I understand your frustration.
We have need of Ragnar's forces. We expect them to be occupied with Barbaros very soon. There is little good news these nights. There is something else, however.
Go on.
A contact. Prince Ambrose has attempted to reach out. He has trusted contacts, old contacts in the East. They wish to make amends for the unsanctioned actions of their renegade agent, whom they claim to be deeply apologetic for. He looks to his attendant, some ghoul dressed as a servant, and he gestures dismissively towards the back door.
Brow furrows a bit. You can't mean what I think you mean, can you?
He looks to you briefly before looking back to the door, which the servant opens, enters, and about a minute later returns, followed by what appears to be a young woman. Talicia, would you like to describe yourself?
She has fiery red hair tumbling about her shoulders, which are bared by her bodice. The sleeves come up just short of the curve of her shoulders. That fiery mane is bedecked with beads of silver and turquoise and gold. You would guess she's no more than 20 at most, but there's a measure of strength in her build. She's obviously not unfamiliar with physical labor. She's quite lean, nubile, obviously not born from a sedentary existence. Jawline is very strong, very full lips, and right now she's adorned by earth tones of amber, brown, green. It's all a bit tight. She's obviously dressed to cause a bit of a sensation, but maybe not upstage someone in Elysium who might be trying to do the exact same. There's a silken scarf belted at her waist. It has a few tiny brass bells, and they tinkle just a little bit as she walks. She comes in carrying a modest cask of what looks like wine. And she offers it out to the Seneschal. A gift from my own cellars. Serve it when next you entertain your mortal contacts. You will be pleased by the result.
He takes this, looking at it briefly, looking to you and then looking back to Elined. This is Telesia, an envoy from the contacts.
And she extends a hand daintily towards Elined.
Elined will shake her hand, but it's most definitely suspicious.
Telesia uses her free hand to grip the edge of her skirt and lift it away as she curtsies deeply. It is an honor to be of service. Her smile is definitely one that reminds you of a cat that has caught a canary. Wry and maybe just a little bit smug.
Mordecai looks to Telesia but speaks sidelong to Elined. I share your skepticism. It will surely cost the prince face for harboring her, but she has been permitted to stay in London at the cost of a major boon, and requirement to aid the gauntlet in the cult advising.
And I welcome your patronage as well, Lord Seneschal, for a modest cost.
Cult, you say?
She whirls on Elined as she speaks. I am a student of the ethereal. Since I was but a lass.
Then I may have something for you to research.
Excellent. I shall make winning your trust, both of you, my highest goal.
She will look over to the Seneschal. Where is she staying currently?
Telesia smiles, even though she's being spoken of in the third person as if she's not there. I have a modest domain within a disused, you call them, tenement building. We have means. It will no longer be a blemish on the face of London.
Delesia has been made aware that given the actions of her rogue cousin, she will be watched carefully for any signs of treachery.
I would expect no less. I am happy to see that the Covenant has learned to be cautious of foreigners.
You said that you had some project of your own for her to research. If that is the case, I will leave you to it. There is other business for me to attend to.
Very well. Good day to you, and she will curtsy towards him.
Talicia also curtsies, but she's maybe a bit exaggerated about it. Her knee almost touches the ground.
The seneschal straightens out his long jacket, looking you in the eye for a long time, Talesia, before he makes his way towards the back entrance where you came from. His ghoul attendant following after him.
Enjoy the wine, she'll call after him, and then turn towards Elined. I had rather expected I might have some time to settle in completely before a request was made of me. But such are the sacrifices we make for diplomacy, yes?
Indeed. Where is this tenant building so I may find you in the future?
By the waterfront, you will find work crews. It is in a state that will serve quite well for its purposes.
Very well. There is someone else I must consult before research begins.
Excellent. I will join you.
Very well.
She clasps her hands in front of her waist. Little bells tinkling as she walks. Rely on me, Elined. Soon, mark my words, we will be as sisters.
I doubt that. I do not form bonds with people so easily.
You have not met a Setite.
No, I have, and the last one I have met two actually. The last one I met, well, the first one I met really, ended up killing one of my companions. And the second one I met, well, he works alongside the person who likely killed another one of my companions.
Talicia hawks and spits on the ground. Thrice damned be his name. The heretic will be brought to justice for all he has done to wrong the gauntlet. This other, I do not know him. Has he a name?
A name likely not, an alias, yes.
And you have seen his scales?
No, but we have found evidence that implicates him.
She spreads her hands. Like the Saracen Assamites, often Sethites are blamed for many wrongs. The Brujas still blame us for the fall of Alexandria's library. Really, if we had the capacity to conduct such wholesale destruction, we would be a force to be reckoned with indeed. Thankfully, no one within Set's childhood would destroy such a wellspring of knowledge.
I should hope you wouldn't.
And yet, the rumor persists. All I ask is that you judge a fruit by its trees. Is that not what your Bibles teaches?
I may have gone to services in my life, but in my own life, I haven't been terribly religious. And with that, she will turn and head to the...
Talisia will follow, though she's a bit of a chatterbox.
All right. Ellen, did you mean to return to the basement of your manor, hoping to find
return
Nicholas?
to the manor and wait for Nicholas. And before he shows up, I should probably make some sort of subterfuge, etiquette, empathy, whatever you would have me roll to mask her current emotion.
To mask her emotions? Give me a... let's see. Give me a manipulation etiquette. Standard difficulty. One success. You're good at making use of the appropriate courtesies and small talk, controlling the conversation enough that your emotions don't come out in an improper, impolitic way.
And can I respond in kind with perception empathy?
I'll give you a perception politic. Or politics etiquette.
Politics and etiquette? I'm
Perception
gonna roll. Okay. I was very confused for a second.
One success against one. Defender wins. In this case, I think the person being lied to or trying to be deceived. So Talisia, you can just barely tell that Elined is doing a good job of at least putting up the basic civilities required of her station and status, but perhaps not all too genuinely.
Not like she wasn't aware. It was a pretty easy cold read. She kind of knew what to expect from it.
Okay. The two of you return to the manor in anticipation of Nicholas returning.
Being a well-mannered young lady, Talicia restricts her movements to either the entryway or wherever it is Elined leads her. She doesn't stray, though she's not unaware of other people who might be moving about the area.
She will give word to Gertrude to inform Nicholas when he arrives to meet.
Gertrude's a bit not put off, but certainly maybe perturbed by the sight of Talicia, maybe just surprised. But she nods a couple times and hurries off to organize other staff, maybe anticipation of preparing another room.
Talicia is actually shows Gertrude a bit of deference, treats her very kindly when she's in the room.
All right. The two of you are there maybe an hour before Nicholas returns to the manor.
Ooh, if possible. Can we pass time by using that little strategy game that Elined came until he shows up?
Can certainly bring it out. Does Talicia participate in this?
Of course, you're going to have to remind me what the role was.
I think we were effectively making it a strategy roll. So it's drawing on a skill I didn't officially put in this game, so military theory, which I've been using Elined's academics for. So I'll have you roll intelligence, and Elined has dots in military theory. You do not, so you can roll your straight intelligence.
Okay.
Honestly, the only reason I took academics for that is because in older editions, tactics was a specialty for it.
Alright, Elined, you do have a specialty in this. That's 4 successes to Talicia's 2. So Elined will handedly win at this game that she's made. But I'll let the two of you describe how this goes.
As she's moving the pieces around and using the marked terrain of the game to her advantage, she raises an eyebrow. Certainly did not expect Talicia to do this well at it.
It is an interesting concept, very much like chess, but perhaps more detailed. You will have to forgive me.
Indeed, I wanted to replicate what I have already seen on the field.
You will have to forgive me. My studies have included very little of martial application. I understand the history of it, but the particulars...
For those I have brought this game out for, you have done rather...
You see, I am more than just a pretty face.
It's around this time that you can hear from where you're in the salon, maybe down the hall, the front door opens and you can hear the sound of Gertrude welcoming in Mr. Ridley back to the manor, the door closing. And Nicholas, as you step through, you see in the salon, it looks like Elined is occupied in a game of her strategy design with a new face.
Nicholas, you recall how you needed an occultist?
Talicia rises at the sight of a new body. She curtsies low.
Certainly, I will find one so quickly.
I did
think
not
that-
expect to see one, to be honest.
I think perhaps I have found her.
How convenient for the both of us.
The fates they do provide now and again.
Who are you?
I am Talicia. And there is no title, of course. I am of Hispania and various other points on the continent. A student of, if it's not too much gilding of the lily, the ethereal. That which is not seen.
And where precisely did you two meet? Eleanor, you were not gone that long.
She was where I was summoned to.
Indeed, at least half the reason, I expect.
If you do not wish me to draw my own conclusions, perhaps you'll enlighten me. What business do you have with her?
She is attempting to make amends on behalf of her clan for a supposed rogue agent.
See a pantomime spitting on the floor. Of course, she doesn't actually produce anything being dead, but it'd be impolite to even try on someone else's floor. The heretic's name will not be spoken, if it please you. He is being hunted by our clan. They seek his heart's blood for crimes committed both against the Covenant and others.
Now I think I know the one of which you speak. And if you share his lineage, that would make you a dangerous ally.
I prefer a helpful ally. No danger to those that I serve.
Then you won't mind if I ask you what is your area of expertise?
Particularly in the areas of occult, I specialize in Canaanite history and lore, though I dabble also in blood magic, sorcery, a particular brand of it found within the childe of Set himself. Though I am happy to study any library which allows me entry.
Nicholas gives Talisia a bemused look.
I would be more than happy to provide an example.
Dazzle me with your acumen.
It is but a trinket, of course, but she reaches down to her waist and picks up a small, clasped mirror and holds it open for him.
Nicholas will step forward to look.
The mirror of second sight displays you as you truly are.
You see the face of a much aged and dead corpse staring back.
Nicholas moves his fingers up to his face. Does the mirror likewise?
Indeed, it seems to mirror you.
You say it shows me as I truly am.
As with all. Cainite, lupine, if the stories be true, Fae, and others.
And here I was prepared to be impressed.
As I said, but a trinket, it is simply prudent to keep such a device on hand when in a strange city.
If it had shown me my own darkest thoughts, perhaps that would have lent credibility to its powers. But pointing me out as a dead and walking thing, that is no secret.
Hold one. I had to remember which level that was. I'm going to use Voice of the Prophet.
All right. Remind me what that is.
Player spends 2 blood, rolls will, or excuse me, 2 blood and a willpower, then rolls perception plus empathy against the target's willpower. If successful, a Setite delivers a cryptic message to the victim that speaks directly to his deepest desires. The nature of the message may be determined by Bukar, and may mean little or nothing to the Setite.
That's right. Eminence of Set. Alright, so you will spend the 2 blood and a willpower. And a perception, empathy, difficulty of willpower, right?
C.
Alright. Actually, I might roll this for you.
Alright.
Just to conceal willpowers and maybe obfuscate this a bit. Look at your sheet.
6.
Thank you. Okay. 5 successes. So the message you deliver will be cryptic, but will reach his deepest desires. Will be driven to act upon them regardless of apparent risks or disadvantages. Can be unpredictable. Interesting. Alright. Nicholas, what would you say is your character's greatest driving motivator, whether it's a certain goal or fear? What above all else would make Nicholas act?
A fear of incompetence. Everything he does is to prevent him from seeming like a useless thing.
All right. And what is it that Talicia actually says?
I know that you work tirelessly to solve a puzzle. I merely offer my aid in solving this, so that you might reap the benefit of it, whether in knowledge or station, whatever it may be that you desire.
And Nicholas, as these words come from Talicia, you feel compelled to make more progress on your own of this book, of uncovering its secrets and showing that you know the truth behind it. And you will be leaving this conversation to go directly to it.
I believe what now?
You need to make more progress on that book to make sure that no one thinks that you don't have expertise here. You must study it. Or you can do anything else you feel like would definitely prove your worth and competence. But it's going to compel you to leave here. Probably.
Your words indeed do cut deeper than your mirror. Unfortunately, I must solve the enigma that puzzles me. I won't be needing your help.
Indeed. I have resources that might be of aid. A small library, fluency in multiple tongues, and a familiarity with, shall we say, unpleasant spirits.
Elined, he'll turn to her. Do think twice before admitting charlatans into your house again.
I will keep this in mind.
And we're in the basement right now, right?
We were in the study.
Oh,
Or
okay.
Parlor. Sorry, parlor.
And Nicholas will turn his coattails and vacate the room for the basement to make sure the book is still safe.
She will look over it. Telesia, exactly what did you do?
He asked that his deepest fears be shown to him. I think he fears his own personal intellectual inadequacies.
I don't know if you would actually know that, but I will
mean-
give you a chance to interpret his actions. This power doesn't tell you what the fears are, it just compels your victim to act on them.
No, but I can hear my own voice, and his response kind of speaks for itself.
But the message isn't usually telling. It says even in the thing, this may mean nothing or be misleading to this set. You don't actually know. This is more about the victim interpreting it than the setup.
Oh. I'll throw those bones.
Yeah, I will give you a chance to interpret it. Give me a perception, empathy, difficulty 8. Alright, one success. I will say that Telesia definitely suspects that Nicholas was impacted by this power, and it probably did play at some inadequacy of some kind.
It is conjecture, of course, only. Sometimes when the voice of Set speaks through us, it is difficult to know exactly what he will say.
If you are here in the future, do not use your powers so brazenly in my home.
He doubted, and the simple trinket, which is quite a useful tool, was simply not enough to convince a skeptic that powers beyond his perception existed. Perhaps I should have summoned a glowing sword and a burst of light. Wouldn't that be gauche?
It is merely advisement for the future. Whatever you did got under his skin, and I would rather not that continue.
Very well. Perhaps you should check on him.
Indeed I shall, and I know where to find you if he changes his mind.
As you wish. She curtsies again and makes for the door.
Okay. Telesia exits. And Elined, you descend to the basement where What does a scene of Nicholas working furiously to understand this text look like?
First, he might want to have a willpower check. This is failure enough that he might fall into his obsessive fugue.
That makes sense. Give me a willpower roll. Difficulty... She rolled really well. I'm going to give you a difficulty 8.
We'll see if Elined can even reach it.
Alright, 2 successes. You feel the compulsion to regain control over your own life, regain order over your surroundings is very strong. Although you do have the ability to pause, at least.
So when Elined comes downstairs into the basement, she finds that the book is unwrapped and open. And Nicholas is actually yelling at it. Well, as much as he yells anyway. Give me your secrets. I know you have them for me. He flips through pages this way and that, peering intently.
I did not mean to interrupt, but she has been dismissed.
Ah, Elined, I did not hear you come in.
There is some more sour news with that meeting I had earlier. Yet another member of the Gauntlet is dead.
Really? Who?
Judith.
That's unfortunate. He definitely sounds that callous. He's more focused on the book than on Elined right now. Will she have a memorial?
That is hard to do with no body. Or ashes, for that matter.
The flesh is but a vessel. It is the spirit that is eternal. The spirit is eternal. I know I must be right about this.
I will leave you to your studies then. If you change your mind about her in the future, I know where you can contact her.
Wait, no. Where is she? Bring her back.
She just left. If you hurry, you may be able to catch up to her. She resides in a building near the waterfront.
There are few in this world who can make me question my own thoughts. I am displeased, but at the same time intrigued. Perhaps she can be of some use.
Then by all means go and attempt to catch up with her.
I shall. And Nicholas doesn't waste another moment, heading up the stairs immediately, contemplating his own internal discovery of eternal spirits and whatnot.
Alright, rushing out of the manor house, you step into the night streets of London, and give me a straight perception alertness roll, standard difficulty. Alright, and what were Talesia's plans after being dismissed from the manor?
She wouldn't have gotten very far. She'd be strolling the streets, really just considering her options more than anything else. If he's passingly perceptive, he'd probably, at the very worst, pick up the sound of bells not far away.
Yeah, she's maybe a block away, not in any hurry. You pierce the crowds and see her. She actually kind of stands out with her fiery red hair.
Nicholas will lengthen his strides to reach her, his hands clenched behind his back.
And soon enough, Telesia, you realize that it seems Nicholas is walking back up to you in your periphery.
She'll turn and curtsy again. Master Ridley, I had worried you had become indisposed. I do apologize. I wasn't sure how harshly the words would strike.
I think you were. But that does not mean I'm not impressed. I called you a charlatan. You must never forgive me for that. But perhaps I can make amends in other ways.
I have been called far worse. Mostly often for looking as I do, but I will change for no one.
For just a moment, mind you, when your words struck my heart. I felt inadequate, as helpless as a babe.
The voice of... And she'll look around to see how close the mortal ears happen to be. Are we largely anonymous in the crowd, or do we have kind of a buzz about us?
People pass by you maybe 10 or 15 feet away. No one's really paying attention.
Then she'll lower her voice to a whisper. The voice of Seth speaks differently to each of us. The words are for you to interpret. I am but a vessel for them.
It is quite a beleaguering trick.
In his mercy, Seth understands the nature of it, what it is to doubt, and forgives those who do. Is it not the skeptic's eye that brings us knowledge of the sciences?
I think that you and I might have studied the same philosophies.
It is a particular passion of mine, though much of my early life was spent in compelled studies.
A convent.
If you like, yes.
I don't know who you really are or why you're here. Beyond, of course, what you've already told us.
You are welcome to interpret my words however you choose. But, as I asked of your companion Elined, I ask only that you judge a tree by its fruits.
That I can do. And peer at the very fibers that make up those fruits, and the ways that all of them interconnect. You are not the only one with gifts.
Has anyone ever told you that you have a very particular sort of sensuality in the way you describe things?
No one said it, and I wouldn't have cared.
It's true.
It is true what Ellen told you. We are in need of help. And though you have laid bare my own inadequacies, perhaps that is a blessing in disguise. Return with me to Elined's Manor, and I'll show you of what I speak.
But of course, as I said, I am here to render aid. And she will gesture for him to lead and will fall into step alongside him.
He will return with her to Elined's Manor.
Okay. The two of you walk together back to the manor, and the scene will fade on the pair walking through the street. And at that, I think we'll pause here and take our 15 and come back after a break.
Cool.
Alright, we return to Robert and his new child, Albert Desjardins. You both will be taking away a blood point as you rise for the dawn, which came quickly and set you both to torpor. But it's a new evening, Albert's first full evening as a fledgling undead, and you to train him. He's actually awake before you are, and seems to be pacing about nervously until you finally stir.
How do you feel?
I still feel so Strange, empowered, but hungry, and the world is... It's as though I look through it as a newborn babe. I know not what to do with all this. We should return to the campsite, and to Kirkwall soon. I wish to return home. I wish for something stable, familiar.
That is our intended goal. Though, I question the fate of Kirkwall.
Why?
The being that tore you apart made mention of it.
What was that man, Robert? What was it that came out of that sea stag?
There's something far older than I. And much more powerful.
Kirkwall is an entire city. Surely one man cannot face that. Are you so worried about its fate?
What you have seen me achieve, I suspect that one could do 100-fold.
His eyes widen in alarm. All the more reason to make haste.
It will be gone, far gone by the time we get there, if he indeed set its sights upon it.
Then how are we to return, Robert? We do not belong here.
We shall have to see if we can secure any ship, any passage.
From where? The pagans? Are you mad? We must try.
You can see what remains of Kirkwall. But we will have to travel between pagan camps.
Yes, of course. The nuns, they should not be left there too long, I imagine. Who knows what those pagans will do if we are not there.
I myself am in desperate need of vitae. You drank deeply from me.
I could not help myself, Robert. It was as though tasting life itself. Light, pure goodness. Everything I've ever felt that was good in this world was there in your veins. He looks hungrily at your arm.
You are of my blood, after all.
Perhaps you could spare just a taste. Just briefly. And then we may set off. He steps towards you.
No. That would be too dangerous at this moment.
He paces away. What are we waiting for, then?
What indeed? Let's be off.
With no further hesitation, he sets at quick and agile movement, moving up the mountain with far more certainty, confidence, and skill than the very first time you saw him come down. Before long, the two of you are back traveling the night. He intends to go at his full supernatural speed back in the direction of the pagan camp.
Robert will halt him and tell him to not be in such a haste. Out here is a fine place to test his new abilities, but when they get back home, he needs to be much more subtle about them. And Robert also needs to seek blood before he heads back, otherwise he'll likely frenzy and start feeding on the camp.
Alright. Can look for more game. It's getting harder and harder, you notice. The wildlife was sparse to begin with. Give me a wit survival, difficulty 8.
I was waiting for that.
One success. You find a small seal for yourself. It's not enough for you to share with him. Luckily, you find it a little bit of ways from him, so he doesn't actually notice initially or immediately. It'll barely be a vitae point, and it tastes much like salt and brine. But it is sustenance.
Okay. Taking that 1 vitae, that'll bring me up to 4. And Robert will, assuming he has all his senses, will return to the camp.
Okay. Albert takes your words into consideration. He still goes very fast, obviously not noticing his lack of fatigue or how quickly he can run, but it's not draining him or you to keep this pace. Now, given that you're moving at this speed, you'll be able to return to camp in a third of the time. It won't be nearly as late now. You don't need to stop to rest. You can run at this speed, which is faster than most. You're basically full-on sprinting back the whole way. So you make it back in about 3 hours, 3.5 hours. And slow your pace as you see there is light from the camp. Some of the earthenware huts that have been built. Some of the men in the village are keeping watch. It's late for them, not really for you. A couple approach as they see the two of you coming from the darkness, and as recognition dawns on their faces, you see a smile, a wave from one of them.
Robert will wave back as he approaches. And begins entrance into the camp.
Make a perception alertness difficulty 6. You and Albert both got 2 successes, so at the same time, both of your heads turn instinctively in the direction of one of the nuns who is by the campfire and keeping her hand out to stay warm. And you can sense without seeing a cut on her hand. It's small, but it's the smell more than anything. Warmed by the fire. You're drawn by the smell. Make a self-control roll. What's your blood at? 4, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Difficulty 7. Alright, you're keeping it together for now. But the nun takes notice as the two of you both unintentionally move towards her briefly. Oh, you're here. What took so long?
Business. We sought what we came for and were successful.
I will not ask what business you could have out here. We attempted to help where we could. I cut my palm in the process of trying to bring in fish. I feel a fool for trying. No good deed goes unpunished. Let us be away in the morning.
Robert gives a strange smile. If we were to leave, it would have to be tonight.
Tonight? It is midnight.
Whatever you fear out there, which could beset you, well, you'll be safe with us.
Certainly we could travel more safely and quickly during the day. What is the urgency?
Kirkwall may have been attacked.
Attacked? By whom? Why do you say such things?
This is the information I have come across. If nothing remains, what do you plan to do next?
If nothing remains... You are a very strange individual. What business do you have out here? Where do you come across information? Why do you suspect Kirkwall does not stand?
Perhaps I speak too dire. Hopefully there will be survivors, if not completely fine.
By this point, her voice is raised enough that the other nuns have come out of the earthenware structures, some of the tents. And she kind of explains to them. We ought to leave tonight. He claims Kirkwall may be under attack.
Yes. Is everyone well enough to travel?
Make Make a charisma leadership roll, difficulty 7. One success. I suppose we are. You don't have much choice. We wish to return. If you are leaving this night, we must leave with you. The other nuns seem still very tired, very weak, regaining their strength from their time in the cave, but they seem better than they did just a couple days ago. And quickly enough, they start getting their rags together. They have very little, almost nothing. It seems that the villagers, these pagans, gave them some basic supplies. And the 3 of them follow you and Albert out.
From what they know about how long it took to get here, how far is the next village?
The next village, as I recall, was the one you butchered, was it not?
No, it's when he left survivors from the butchery at.
That's right. It's hard to keep track of who you've butchered.
I know.
I will say that at a good clip, you could probably make it tonight.
What time of day are we looking at?
It would be close, but given that it's getting closer to fall, the days are getting shorter, the nights getting longer, so you have a little bit more room as it continues on. You'd probably have roughly an hour once you got there. Traveling by foot, especially at the pace these nuns are walking, is not helpful for traveling the distances that you're traveling.
Albert may have to second guess this completely. This is not looking feasible.
Be very difficult, that's for sure.
He'll instead ask the people of the camp if they trade with the nearby villages, and if they would be willing to help the nuns get over to the next village.
In their very crude, or your crude understanding of their language, you learn that yes, they do trade. They could bring the nuns over in one of their fishing boats in maybe a week during the next time they're going to go trading.
One or all 3?
All 3.
Okay. And he'll try to learn more about their trade route, because if they can get to a village closer to Kirkwall, that'd be more useful.
They make a very basic map of the Orkney Islands and point out a place that you think you were at originally, where you killed most of the inhabitants. They trade there too.
Uh-huh. Alright, so these two villages are their trading points. Any
Yes.
others?
Not really.
Okay. Robert can't help but grimace at the location of the village he suspects is the first one. Alright then. They'll have to have them take the nuns over within a week, and he himself and Albert will set out ahead, giving them the excuse that they need to make more haste to Kirkwall.
So
And give the nuns more time to recover. Yeah.
you request that they take the nuns to the village you slaughtered?
No, the one he didn't slaughter.
Okay. The villagers agree to this. You just have to sell the idea to the nuns. So give me a charisma expression roll, difficulty 8. Actually, didn't you feed them? Did you feed them vitae?
Yeah.
How many times? I only recall one
Not
time.
many. Just once, if any. Yeah, once.
I'll make it 7.
This including his merit.
Enchanting voice?
Mm-hmm.
Difficulty 5 then.
Alright.
I have to house rule that next time. Alright, at least 3 successes. Only you can sell an idea this bad to nuns in this desperate of a situation. They reluctantly agree with obvious frustration and fatigue. What else are they going to do, really? And so you depart.
Okay.
Certainly traveling without these mortals will be easier. You could easily make it back to the very first village this night.
That probably would be a better choice because the point they're at now, like, they taste blood and they're going to freaking wipe out a village.
I'm sorry, what?
How low of blood they are. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first village. That's where him and Albert will go then.
Okay. It is a deserted encampment. There are still signs of bloodshed and violence here. Many of the meals left half-cooked or set for the morning. Bedrolls that were haphazardly turned over. Cases and containers broken and open in a rush. And a fire that long ago went out. This is what you come back to.
How much time before dawn?
At this point, I'm going to say about an hour, because you made it significantly farther than you would have if you were just shooting for that middle village.
All right. Could possibly get like some time of hunting before sunlight hits.
You can try, but a botch might mean that you get stranded out there before you make it back.
How about if we say only search for like maybe 30 minutes? Can I get that like increase the difficulty or something?
I won't increase the difficulty. I'll require more successes. Basically, you being more successful at searching a limited area. So give me a wit survival. It will be difficulty 7. Give me 3 successes. It's a combination of scarcity and speed you're working on.
All right.
Two successes. Okay. You find... You find a couple puffins, which are kind of like little birds, look like penguins, if penguins and pigeons were crossed. They're fat, stumpy little creatures, and you find a couple of them asleep on some algae-covered rock. And with your speed, you get up to these cute little things faster than they can wake up and fly away, and grab 2 of them, 1 in each hand. And you can get 2 vitae back after draining both of them dry.
All right. 2 vitae it is.
Albert doesn't try. He doesn't seem to think he's good enough at hunting. Perhaps his beast does, but he doesn't think so.
Robert will head back to an empty camp and hold up for the day.
Almost empty. Albert's there. Although in not great spirits.
Well, they are in a rough situation.
Alright. So you stay there for the day in the tents, which have helped you in the past. And the following evening, again, you can take off a blood point as the 2 of you rise. Albert's getting quite hungry now again. Kirkwall is not far from here. We can make it soon.
Right you are. We'll make haste now.
He nods. The 2 of you set off. One moment. All right. So the 2 of you start making your way back at good speed, back in the direction of Kirkwall. And, sorry, you're going to say something?
No.
You are cresting a hill, and tonight there is quite a bit of of moonlight, which gives you some better visibility. So you're cresting a hill, and you know that just on the other side there is going to be some side of the city. You can be sure of that. And you see as you crest it, smoke plumes visible in the distance. You see the distant signs of fire. As you draw closer on your trek back, you see the wooden gates are intact, only slightly ajar, but stepping in, there are no guards. The streets you see run red with blood. There are carts with dead piled high. Still no guards. The dead are piled so high, yet more are left in the streets, some drained dry. Houses smoke with ruin of old fires now put out. The cathedral, once the pinnacle of beauty in this city, its glasses, the glass windows shattered, a trail of blood coming down the stone steps from the entrance, which is broken. Kirkwall's citizens huddle together, morose and tearful of what few there are still here. Some working somberly to clean the ruins of their city. You never see a living guard as you walk through here. What is Robert's reaction as he steps back into the ruin of Kirkwall?
Stomach drops as he takes in the sight, as he can fully imagine the carnage that took place. Sensation is overwhelming. He studies Albert, who can only assume is speechless at the sight.
Albert's mouth, hangs open, standing to the side of you, Robert. It was one man. It was just one man.
Now you understand.
What is he going to do?
He has left to kill perhaps a great-grandchild.
Good God. What are we to do?
See who remains. Perhaps we can help pick up pieces. But most importantly, the hunger is strong within us, and we are very likely to lose control.
He looks around. The blood is old and stagnant, but it is drawing his attention. Yes, I can feel the beast pulling at me. He looks at the doorway of a mostly destroyed home where a child is standing, looking uncertain, her face dirty with soot and a slight splatter of blood.
Robert will quickly avert his eyes, not wanting to even look at a child at this moment.
No
The
one's
end when
really...
we
Go ahead.
The end when we first arrived. Let's see if the owner is still among the living.
He has to pull himself away from looking at this child who just stares wide-eyed at the two of you. He is able to follow you, and almost no one is giving you any attention. The citizens still remaining in Kirkwall are attending to their own misery, some trying to fix what they have left or tend to the dead, of which are almost countless. You walk through the streets and see similar carnage. The inn has seemed to be mostly intact structurally, but the door is left ajar. There's no one inside. It looks, from your assessment, that drinks and meals were left half finished, half touched. A couple chairs are knocked over. Drink is spilled. No bodies. And no innkeeper. The lights are all out.
Robert will enhance his senses and see if he can hear anything, breathing, anything to show any signs of inhabitants.
Yeah, perception alertness. Difficulty 8 minus your aspects. Four successes. Only because of your supernatural ability do you hear the very faint whimpering upstairs in one of the inn rooms.
Robert will begin heading up.
You go upstairs, and again, there is no light, except for the ambient light coming in from one of the windows in the hallway. And most of these doors are closed, but you can tell where the whimpering is coming from, and the door pushes open, unlocked, and inside is a very standard and modest inn room, the bed and a table, an unlit candle, a shuttered window that's been closed, and in the corner you see an older gentleman who is mostly bald and kind of rocking himself back and forth up against a corner of the wall. He seems to be whimpering and sobbing to himself.
Robert's not going to address him, but having someone this secluded is too much of a calling to the beast.
Albert seems to be right behind you in that thinking. Looking at him hungrily. What do you do?
Well, if the man has acknowledged them, that would change things, but Robert's intent is to just expose his fangs and go in.
He seems lost in his own thought, grieving, or perhaps mad. Feeding on him is a trivial task. You set upon him, and Albert right behind you, and the two of you drain him of vitae quickly, feeding on his life. You can take 5 blood points, as Albert is just as eager and hungry as you are.
And it is done.
You leave a pale, lifeless corpse on the floor. They won't notice one more.
Robert will straighten himself out and begin searching the inn, maybe to see if it's been looted by anyone.
You search the inn. You find not a safe per se, but a discreet box, which does seem to contain a modest amount of silver.
Yeah, he'll pocket that.
Robert, do you suppose any sailors still live here? Perhaps the ships remain.
We should check the port next.
He nods.
This will be enough to cover passage.
Alright, the two of you exit the inn, having murdered the only remaining person, and make your way to the port. It does appear the ships are mostly intact. You don't see any burnt or sunken ships or anything. There weren't many here to begin with, but a few cogs, trading vessels. No port authority to be seen. No traders actively moving anything.
Anyone that looks to be at least a sailor?
Initially, you don't think like anyone is here at the port, but after you're there for a little while, you hear and then see that a couple people are coming out of one of the cogs, and it looks like they're carrying bags of things. They look around left and right over their shoulder and then carry the bags off the ship.
Robert will approach them.
You catch them by surprise. It's 2 young men, barely men. They're wearing linen cloth and caps. They're startled when they see you. They didn't notice you. Oh, we're helping move supplies, sir. They're needed elsewhere. Pardon us.
I was going to do a empathy check, see if they're lying.
Sure. Standard difficulty. 4 successes. You don't really believe a word of that.
How about you tell me what you're really doing?
The young man looks to his friend, then looks back to you. He looks apologetic. We didn't think anyone was going to notice. A little bit gone. You know, there are not any guards any left. We may as well get something out of this, right? Start over? You can understand. Here, you can take one. Just let us be on our way.
That is not my concern. Are all of these sailors dead?
Half the town's dead. Are you new here?
In a way.
Well, Jim and I are one of the only 2 sailors left. A captain and most of the crew are gone. We managed to... It happened to be away. Away from most of it, at least.
What did you see?
He sets the sack down, which kind of puffs out a little bit, and you think might actually have spice in it. I didn't see a whole lot. I tried not to get too close. They were killing everyone.
You say they. How many?
A handful, maybe. He looks to his friend, who kind of nods in agreement. Just a few. The whole guard went out to them. It's like the weapons were breaking on their hands. Never seen anything like it. They went right into the castle like they was walking home.
What were their appearance?
Ghastly men. Long hair. Can't even rightly say they were men. Men of Satan, perhaps.
As you say. Tell me, do you think you could get this ship sailing?
He looks back at the ship. It's seaworthy. But me and Jim were just 2 people.
Could you direct more?
I'm not a captain. I never done that.
Surely you at least know what needs to be done.
Well, the basics. Wouldn't trust me in a storm or nothing.
I don't suppose any other ship is set to sail here soon.
Sir, I don't think anyone's doing much of anything around here soon.
I mean from the outside.
We usually got trading vessels coming up here every few weeks. I wouldn't expect to see one for another fortnight. There ain't anybody alive left to send message out.
Robert will look towards Albert. It seems the best option is to wait.
Wait. No. I cannot wait. If this boy knows how this ship can be sailed, well, then it's just a matter of manpower. We can do that. We must sail it. We must leave.
No need to rush. I have much to teach you.
It's been barely 2 days and nights since the sea stack, and already this. If we wait any longer, who knows what will happen?
What happens is no longer within our ability to make an impact. Whoever did this will seek justice and, I assume, go back to sleep.
What if you're wrong?
And if I'm wrong, a few weeks won't matter.
So you just let this happen? Back south, back at home? There's more than one of them, Robert. Didn't you hear him? We can't just wait.
There's precious little else that can be done.
If you say so.
In the meantime, let's help the townsfolk here.
This boy you're talking to seems to be kind of whispering something to his friend and then turns back to you. Mister, if you are looking to sail out of here, well, rightly so, we are as well. I know a couple blokes might join us. We could proper crew this.
That is hopeful.
So you wouldn't mind us, He looks back at the sack of spice.
Not at all. It seems that it is yours. Your captain has fallen and you are now under control of the vessel.
It's just to get started again. We're gonna give the rest to charity and the church. His friend kind of nods emphatically.
Good lads.
I'll go find my friends. Get them up to speed.
Why not us both come with? I would like to be acquainted with your friends.
Oh, as you say, sir. One moment. Will I find a name for this boy? Alright. So this boy, who seems to speak for his friends, is named Colby Ballard. And he introduces you to a couple other very young men, 18, 19-year-olds. Also sailors, fishermen. And they are quickly on board with getting out of Kirkwall. There's nothing for them there. Nothing good. And they also seem to be of similar inclination as Mr. Colby Ballard, in that procuring some of the lost trading items that would have gone to waste is just as fine. And so you have a skeleton crew for your newly acquired cog.
That's a start. I guess before Robert heads out, he would at least want to leave a note, or maybe tell one of the survivors that 3 nuns in about a week's time will be arriving at a now desolate pagan camp. It probably would be better. I mean, no, not desolate pagan camp. Sorry, I got things mixed up. How's he gonna get someone to rescue the nuns?
How indeed.
Well, see, he'll work on Colby's crew and get them loyal in various means, and figure out how difficult it would be to sail the cog over to that friendly camp, and maybe pick the nuns up and maybe even start a new herd or something.
Sure. How do you want to go about building rapport with your new crew?
He'll tell them stories in a very poetic manner and get their imaginations raptured, and
This all mundane or any supernatural?
well, obviously these boys have seen something supernatural, but he's not going to be overt about it. It can be fantasy.
Okay. It's not using any gifts.
Maybe just a presence at the beginning, just to get their attention, but yeah, that's about it.
Okay. You see here, I kind of want to hand wave most of these parts so I can get you back to the mainland and closer to the group by the end of this.
I am perfectly fine with that.
So just give me a charisma expression roll, and with your very high presence, I'll make this check pretty low. Difficulty 4. I'm kind of assuming this is a number of tricks that Robert has picked up over time, both mundane and supernatural. 6 successes. Yeah, much which seems very familiar to how Albert was lured into joining you. You quickly enrapture the crew to be very enthralled to you, very amazed and awed at your charisma and your natural poise and grace with words. And they've found themselves a new cult leader, as it were, almost. And they think that it'd be pretty easy to sail down to one of the southern islands and pick up the nuns with a little rowboat. Obviously, you can't bring a cog up to the shore, but you can take a rowboat out and you can put that on the ship. So it wouldn't be hard at all.
All right.
Is that your plan?
Yeah, that's his plan. Only addition I would add is like maybe he'll toss some silver over to the fishing village for watching over the nuns, and as they're sailing back, he'll be instructing Albert and he'll bring the nuns up to speed and tell them they need to find someplace new.
All right. So your entourage now consists of 3 nuns you formerly sold into blood slavery before you freed them, and a crew of 4 barely young men crewing this cog, and another young man whom you've ghouled that you were actually completed the sacrifice for and embraced to bring back. And you are sailing this entourage back south towards London. Or, I'm sorry, Hull, like Yorkshire.
It probably would be best to go to. We'll see if we can get on Barbarossa's good graces.
I'm gonna sail to Liverpool to get to Chester.
Yeah.
Okay. Once again, the nuns are kind of like, what are they going to do when they see you come back with a ship? That's more than they could have hoped for. And as much as they kind of despise you, they very much would like to get back to Christian civilization. Proselytizing to pagans is apparently not as fulfilling as they thought, especially when half of them died. And in true Toreador fashion, you've disposed of your old herd and ghouls in exchange for new ones.
So be it.
All right. And I will fade the scene on Robert pulling into port in Liverpool with his new entourage. And it will be around late August by the time you make port. So we will change scenes and shift gears for now. We will return and check in on our other friends. So Nicholas returns to Elined's manor with Talicia in tow. And Elined, you again hear the footsteps as they return, door closing behind them. Where does Nicholas take Talicia?
Down to the basement, of course.
All right. Do you want to describe your basement for her?
It's basement-y.
Indeed.
Okay, so down in Elined's basement, Nicholas has set up a very simple cot for him to sleep in since the place is pretty secure from sunlight. He does have some weird things down here, though. He has a table down here laid out with tools that might have unknown purpose if Talisi doesn't know anything about medicine. He's also got a chair with straps on the arms and legs. Again, for what purpose, who can tell? And that's pretty much it. It's fairly Spartan. Horrifying, but Spartan.
Talicia runs her fingertips across the tools delicately, almost grazing them. You are a surgeon, then?
Of a sort. A surgeon of the spirit, if you will.
We all have our passions.
But that is not what I brought you down here to see. Is Elined down there and she follows down?
That is up to her.
Elined, no, she did not follow you down.
I will say you are aware that, just by the sound of voices and footsteps, that he was probably successful in getting her back in.
She's already seen the book. It wasn't impressive for her.
Yes, I understand you have a project for me to assist with.
Perhaps you can help with it, perhaps not. I'll let you be the judge. It's there, wrapped in that bed linen. And he'll warn her about nothing else. Just let her feel it out.
She'll approach the book, the bundle, and gingerly unwrap it. She's being very delicate because she doesn't know exactly what's inside. So if it's parchment, obviously she shouldn't touch it directly because it may crumble. Is it old, do you think?
Yes, it's old, but I cannot say how old. It's held up remarkably well. I would not worry about damaging it if I were you.
You would be surprised at the damage that a simple touch can do to ancient scrolls and papyrus.
Nicholas just watches and waits.
Can I throw perception, investigation, and or intelligence occult at this thing?
You can do either or. Different investigation strategies will unveil different details.
She's going to be very delicate about turning the pages because, again, she doesn't know its age. So she's going to use the edge of its wrap to turn pages so she doesn't cause harm, smudge ink. And she's going to turn through it. And I'm going to roll intelligence occult.
What kind of information do you wish to gain from it?
Looking for purposes, any signs of, we'll say, arcane influence, may roll out a ritual at it, but we'll see on that after the initial roll.
Okay.
Basically seeing if there's anything that indicates that this is of particular note, or if the information contained within it is in any way mystically useful.
All right, that's a lot of things. Well, let's see how you roll.
Difficulty?
For an intelligence occult to learn... Can you summarize that in like one sentence?
She's looking for general significance and authenticity of its contents.
Okay, we'll start.
Vis-a-vis. Yeah, go ahead.
We'll start with there. Authenticity, significance of contents. Yeah, intelligence occult. Difficulty 6.
Subject matter expert?
What is your subject matter?
Occult? That's her intelligence specialty.
Yeah, I'll give that to you. You might need to talk about narrowing that, but I'll give that to you this time. So, what's that? 2 successes?
Yep.
You aren't entirely sure of the entirety of its significance, but you know enough about occult tomes and grimoires and such that this does strike you as something very unique amongst even the more uncommon texts you might find in a chantry or a mystic temple. There is something, you're not exactly sure what, but something about this text which marks it apart from others as either very powerful or very dangerous. There is no doubt to its authenticity as to being supernaturally related.
But overall, she can generally read the contents and understand what it's saying, for the most part.
Yes, so your interpretation from an occult standpoint is that this is the recordings of entries of perhaps another occult scholar who attempted to summon some entity you suspect something that might be considered a demon at this time, or the devil, and was supposedly successful in gaining great power and knowledge with which this individual banished the same creature.
If I remember correctly from past explanations, it also contains the creature's name.
Yes, Krinos. That is the closest phonetic tongue that you can get. Although you are canny enough in the occult to know that an entity that is described as such would have something far more complex for an identity than just that.
This entry, it speaks a name. No demon worth its salt would allow its true name to be preserved in writing.
This I have surmised. What else?
Most of this account is almost certainly a lie, Demons do not simply provide power and influence and then whisper away on the wind. It would have wanted something.
That is very perceptive of you. It took me some time to discover that truth.
More often than not, it is a service from its summoner, often in perpetuity. I learned very early on that nothing is given freely. Everything must be earned. And those that seek shortcuts and fast tracks to power often end up paying far more than they bargained to.
Good.
I would counsel you to learn all you can of its origins and its details and subject matter and then burn it. It is most likely a sympathetic link to this devil.
What is this sympathetic link?
The principle of sympathy is quite simple. By linking one energy source, often that of a life or unlife, one is able to work targeted magic against said life or unlife. In this case, the demon works through the book, which seems to have been imbued with some of its own essence.
Do you
And-
think there's...
No, you go ahead.
Do you think there is more knowledge that can be gained from this book?
I think beyond the words, any more knowledge that can be gained from this will be gained from the demon itself, and only what it wishes you to see. Perhaps it will show you visions, perhaps new writing will appear in the book. Who can say? Demons are like people in this way. No two are quite alike in their motives and motivations.
And should I wish to contact this demon?
I would counsel you sooner to pluck out your own eyes. No good can come from this.
Nicholas and Delicia, since you both studied this, you did see that with the depictions made in the book, the sigils provided in the instructions, you could reliably use this as instructions to summon much as the author summoned. There is enough in here to follow what he did.
With my role, would I know whether or not these are binding sigils, or if they're just simple summoning sigils?
With 2 successes, I'm going to say you are not sure. You know that they're involved in bringing forth this entity, but after that, you're unsure.
Can I throw another set of dice for that specific question?
Do you have formal background training in the summoning of demons?
Not specifically, no, but it does fall into blood magic, which she does have some formal training in.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this is part of your intelligence occult role. Unless you consult with somebody who knows more or find other source information, that right now that's the extent of your limit, because the subject of studying demonology and summoning it is something that some occult scholars spend all of their training in. The knowledge of sigils is very important. Critical, in fact.
Without knowing more about the specific nature of these glyphs, I would want to confer with other resources, perhaps within the church. Part of the Apocrypha may contain references to binding versus summoning sigils. Without knowing for certain, we could simply be asking it to join us for tea. It would be under no pretense to behave a certain way or leave when bidden. There are these rituals within certain brands of blood sorcery which could be used for such a purpose, but I do not recognize these as such.
Then perhaps Elined was right. We should consult the church.
Whether or not they would allow us entry is a different story entirely. I would advise against bringing such an object through the church doors. It may offend either the book's patron or the Holy Church itself. I couldn't say.
There must be a way. There are things I would know.
The glyphs themselves can be transferred to mundane parchment. I would not align them in this way, as that could trigger the ritual itself, but one or two simply to determine the veracity of and purpose for these glyphs.
You have been most helpful.
I will look forward to future outings and refining this particular area of investigation.
Unfortunately, I must make to leave London with some haste.
Is there not a church here which may house such tomes?
Perhaps, but I find myself recently unwelcome.
A man such as yourself I think perhaps I find this hard to understand.
I'm not quite certain I understand it myself. I found within myself a distinct loathing for some of the bureaucrats who put people to the city. They are aware of my displeasure, and they have been insulted by it.
Was it not Aristotle who said it is better to cause a reaction than to be a reactor? You are being goaded, sir.
Perhaps, perhaps not. But I do not like being under intense scrutiny.
We are a part of the jihad. Being under scrutiny is the nature of our existence. It is how one deals with the nature of that scrutiny that sets one apart from another. Are you the sort that subverts the expectations of those around you, or caters to them?
I think you should have decide that for yourself.
It impacts me very little, but it impacts you very much. If you cater to the expectations of those who wish you gone, then you will leave. If you wish to subvert them, then you will stay.
Your words show much forethought and wisdom. If I do stay, I shall have to be more careful with whom I interact.
Or simply with the words you choose when around them. There is no gilded ass which does not like to be kissed.
An amusing notion. I will take your words under advisement.
As Elined was informed, I have been tasked with advising the Gauntlet. As I understand it, you are companion to the Gauntlet, and therefore beneficiary of said advice.
I have proven myself useful to some members of the Gauntlet, yes. Although I'm quite sure they don't know what to think of me. I like it that way.
Yes, I see that you wish to be an enigma, is the word. Being unpredictable makes it difficult to quantify exactly who and what you are. This is a canny game to play. All the more reason to subvert the expectations of those who would pull your strings and make you predictable.
I wish to be alone now to consider these thoughts.
Very good, Master Ridley. A pleasant evening to you. And she'll curtsy again low, and then sashay her way up the stairs.
goes, Nicholas sits down in his chair to think.
All right. What has Elined been up to during this time?
Mainly, she has been... Well, how many hours of the night are left?
I would say on this night, at least half. A good amount of the night.
She will be training her swordplay.
Okay.
Mainly as a way to vent her own frustrations with what has happened.
Classic Aowen swinging of the sword in midair. And does Talicia leave after her conversation with Nicholas?
Etiquette demands that she let the master of the house know before she departs. So she'd either seek out Gertrude or Elined, whoever she comes across first.
You come across Gertrude first. She's more accessible, passing from one room to the next, carrying a jug of water, and sees you, smiling politely. Do you need anything, Mom?
My dear, no, thank you. Simply, if you would let your mistress know that Master Ridley and I have had a bit of a breakthrough. We will be consulting more texts to verify certain details. Wish her a good evening and thank her for her gracious hosting of my humble presence.
Of course, I will do so.
I hope that she treats you well. You are a most doting and devoted servant.
My Lady Vasingen is quite the perfect mistress.
Good. Where I come from, it is noble to be of service. And the weight of the bonds that you share with your mistress weigh heavily upon her. I hope more so than upon you.
She smiles politely.
She'll curtsy low again, once again showing deference. Blessed be those that serve. And she'll wheel about to depart.
All right, off you go. Elined, you are practicing your swings and turn just in time to stop as you see Gertrude is in the doorway. Ah, my lady.
It is nice to see you.
Your guest, the red-haired one, she has departed. She wishes for you to know that a breakthrough was occurred between herself and Nicholas.
Good. Thank you for bringing this to my attention.
Oh, and she said something of, that more texts will have to be consulted for something. She smiles.
Not terribly surprising.
Very wordy, that one, if you don't mind me saying so, Mum.
Yes, she is rather chatty.
Shall you be needing anything else tonight?
Not at the moment, no. I wish to train more.
She nods a couple times. Shall I fetch Cornelius?
I am quite fine on my own at the moment.
As you say. And she closes the door behind her. So Ellen is left to train. Nicholas is left to his thoughts. What else are Talisia's plans for the night, or maybe just going forward?
So Talisia's plans, short term, would immediately be to feed, and then going forward, so many plans. She's definitely going to want to swell the ranks of her herd, but in a very particular way. Probably for the rest of tonight. Well, after she's fed, she's probably going to make another batch of winos.
All right. And what are Nicholas's plans overall going forward? Big or small?
He's actually considering making the trip to Canterbury like Ellen had suggested. But first he'll see what luck he can have within London itself.
Alright. And does Elined have any change to her larger overarching plans?
Not at the moment, no, but I could have sworn she suggested going to one of the colleges and not Canterbury.
She did that as well. But she mentioned Canterbury because of all the religious figures there.
It was an idea. I think Elined was less.
It was
fond
an
of the
idea. Yeah, it was an idea that was tossed out because, well, no need to get burned over a book.
He's taking it seriously.
Alright. Cool. That's helpful for me. And I think as everyone sets off to their plans or continues reflecting on the news, then we will leave it here for the night. And we will pick it up again in the next game.